Hi there, Facebook. I'm back. Seems like we've been talking a lot here lately. A lot to talk about. I'm Skip Bayless, if you don't know that already, and I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles, West Side, mile or so from the Fox movie lot, Fox Studios, from where we do Undisputed every weekday morning, 9:30 to noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. This is the moment I usually provide a little cameo for my quote-unquote daughter, our little year and 3-month-old Maltese, Hazel, the star of the internet, much bigger star than I am. And her mom, Ernestine, my wife Ernestine, left. I don't know what happened, and Hazel's out of her mind, running crazy. She wants me to play chase with her, and I just couldn't get a hold of her. Trust me, she is really fast. And she just wouldn't calm down. And I said, well, I'm going to have to pick you up if you want to go on Facebook. And she just talked back to me, as she sometimes does. She's in one of those moods. So I'm going to have to go this alone. I have to go solo. And I have got a whole lot to say about what we saw last night and what we might see going into next NFL season leading up to next year's Super Bowl, which I doubt could be as great as that one was. Just as a spectacle, just as a viewer's haven, it was better than any Super Bowl spread that you had at your party. It was like all of these, it was like all the best foods you could ever have. Like my brother serves when he goes off, my brother Rick, you might know him from PBS fame, and he'll do these spreads of all sorts of rare cuisines, and it seemed like last night was just rare from start to finish. But before I launch on all of the above, I got to take a shot at myself. Silly me, I predicted 20-17 Patriots because I thought that thing last night would resemble the two Giants Patriots Super Bowls, the two Eli versus Brady Super Bowls, because I had so much respect for the Philly defense. I thought it could get after Tom Brady. I thought it could knock him around, rough him up. I thought Fletcher Cox would be pushing the middle of that pocket right back into his face, into his lap, move him off the spot. I thought they had so much depth coming off the edge that the various Brandon Grahams, all the way down to Derek Barnett, the rookie, and obviously Chris Long, that they would just be coming in waves and that they would cause Tom a lot of trouble. And he would have to hunt and peck and scratch and claw, as he did against the Giants' defenses, to get on the scoreboard. And I thought it was going to take a Gostkowski field goal to save them. Another game-winning fourth-quarter drive by the greatest quarterback we've ever seen by far, Tom Brady. And boy, was I wrong, because I actually thought that Belichick's defense against Nick Foles, and I have lots of respect for Nick Foles. You heard me on Undisputed for the last month. I respect him. But obviously this was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage in American sports. And I kept saying, Nick Foles will not choke. He will not turn into Nick Folds, F-O-L-D-S. Nope. He'll play well, but not great. I mean, I thought he would have his moments, and I thought Belichick would have more moments. I'll throw in Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator. It's Belichick's defense. Let's just call it what it is. He's the mastermind. He's the strategist. They have a plan. The adjustments made at halftime are made by Belichick. From play to play, the defenses are called, obviously, by Matt Patricia, but the lineups have been chosen. The various schemes have been mapped out in the 2 weeks leading up to the game. It's Belichick's defense. It's what he does. It's his calling card. It's his trademark. It's his claim to fame, to all-time fame. And I just thought it would be one of those battles. And I thought it would be extremely physical on the part of the Eagles. I thought they would play out of their minds, fired up, underdog motivated, to put Tom Brady in his GOAT place, to make him just the GOAT instead of the G-O-A-T. After all the Tom versus Time documentaries episodes that had dropped ahead of the Super Bowl, and after the Belichick 30 for 30, the two Bills, Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells. I just thought the Eagles would come out and turn it into a street fight, knockdown, drag out of a battle. Silly me. So here's how wrong I was. Would you believe that in the history of the National Football League, the history, dating back to its early sort of caveman days, if you will, would you believe no team that ever totaled over 600 yards of offense has ever lost an NFL game? No team ever. Regular season, playoffs, ever. Period. End of story. Until now. Last night, Tom Brady and company put up 613 yards of offense. 613 yards. And they lost. Think about that. This has never happened in the history of football, pro football. 613 total yards by the losing team. Never happened before. And obviously Tom Brady scored the most points that have ever been scored by a Super Bowl loser, 33 points. Wow. What happened? Wait a second. I'm still trying to process this from last night. Nick Foles' offense scored 41 points on Bill Belichick's defense? It's preposterous. It's surreal. I feel like I'm speaking in a dream right now because that just can't happen. And yet it happened and it happened and it happened and it just kept on happening. And I'm going to say this one more time. I'm a Brady fan, not off the field, just on the field. And I'm not a big Patriot fan. I'm just a Brady fan. And the harder I study Bill Belichick, the less I am a fan of his, especially after last night. Let's just start from the very start. And I can't wait to talk about the end of the game. But let's start from the very start. This just angers me. It offends me. It infuriates me. It at the deepest level, it rubs me raw that Bill Belichick, the wizard, the genius, when he wins coin tosses, he defers because he's a defensive wizard. You have Tom Brady. I don't care. You can do all the math you want to do. Yes, but we want the ball to start the second half. We want to try to score at the end of the first half and then have the ball and come right out and score again. Baloney! No, you don't. I'm sorry. There's something about setting a tone. You have the greatest quarterback ever. Ever. And I'm sorry. I used to love Joe Montana. I still love Joe Montana. But this guy's in another stratosphere from anybody who's ever played the position. And he's playing as well at age 40 as he's ever played. Ever. He threw for 505 yards last night. Process that. It's the most yards ever thrown for in any playoff game in the history of pro football. The most ever. Not just in a Super Bowl, in any game ever. Playoff game. Money's on the table. Wait, nobody's ever done that before? And he's 40 years old? You're kidding me. That's preposterous. That's surreal. That sounds like something out of a Saturday Night Live routine. But he did that. Yet his coach wins the coin toss. Heads or tails? Heads, whatever, you win. Your choice, New England. What are you going to do? We'll kick off. You'll kick off? So you realize New England now has played in 8 Super Bowls and has never scored a touchdown in the first quarter of a Super Bowl. Well, why wouldn't you just give it to Tom Brady and see if he could go do that? Because if you challenge that guy, if you rattle his cage and you say this has never been done, just maybe you'll say, okay, watch this, Bill. Watch what I can do if you give me the football first. But last night they give it to Nick Foles, presumably because they think they can stop him. And the great irony of that statement is the only time they kind of stopped Nick Foles was on third down at the end of the opening drive of the Super Bowl. And they forced the Eagles to only kick a field goal. and it was only 3-0 instead of 7-0. What? It's just very offensive to me because Belichick gets way too much credit and Tom Brady does not get enough. So let's think about what happened after that opening drive by Nick Foles. As Tom Brady summed it up after the game, it never felt like we were in control of the game. We could never dictate, meaning that Philly always dictated. Philly was in control of that game from the start. The Patriots, especially, falls on Brady's shoulder pads as always, they're just playing from behind, and they're playing from behind, and they're playing catch up, and they're fighting. They're trying to dig out from under the embarrassment that is their defense. The hole dug by the defense. And it wasn't just here or there. It was just continuously throughout the whole game. Nick Foles and company managed to control the football 34 minutes to the 26 that Tom Brady had it. And that's because they ran for 164 yards and because Nick Foles on third down was 10 out of 16. That means 10 times in 16 tries, he converted third downs. There are a bunch of 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s. And twice on 4th down, they converted. Obviously, the 2 huge plays, one for a touchdown and one that was the play of the game, obviously, with 5:38 to go. The 4th and, 1, I guess, at their own 45-yard line. It's just do or die. That's the game to me. They're down 33-32. Tom Brady somehow fought back and did it again. Yet again in a Super Bowl, 7 times out of his 8, he has orchestrated a come-from-behind, go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter. 5 of them stood up as game-winning drives because they won the game. And then twice more, he did it again. He did it against Eli in the first Super Bowl, put them ahead with 2:42 to go. And last night he put them ahead with 9:22 to go. So a little earlier in the fourth quarter, he pulled off the drive that put them ahead 33-32 with the short touchdown pass to Gronkowski. But regularly through the whole game, New England had no hope of stopping Philadelphia. I never thought I'd say this. And Bill Belichick, I hope it's starting, the worm is turning. He's getting a huge pass for this. I went off on him. I just unleashed on him. I was on fire about this, and I burned Shannon Sharp, undisputed. That's 9:30 to noon Eastern every day, weekdays, Fox Sports 1. But I just creamed Bill Belichick because he deserves it. That was all-time awful. And the great irony was he let down his quarterback, his business partner, Tom Brady. They're not close. They're not friendly. They're business partners, effectively. And they're great, all-time great Lennon-McCartney kind of business partners. But last night, Bill Belichick did not hold up his end of the bargain because he was hapless and hopeless with his defensive schemes. And Super Bowl halftimes obviously are way too long, especially last night's, because Justin Timberlake was just blah to me. And I'm trying to process all the stats, and I'm tweeting, and I'm doing a lot of other stuff, but I still like the Super Bowl halftime, and Justin Timberlake was just a blah. I'm sorry. I guess I could say it was just okay, but it was pretty boring given what we've seen. It made Lady Gaga look gaga, like I was gaga over gaga compared to what happened last night. And I'm the biggest Prince fan you'll find. Saw him live during the Purple Rain Tour, 1985. And he's just, just one of the ultimate creative geniuses. But, the hologram, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It just didn't come off. It didn't grab my heart, play my heartstrings. But anyway, it's a long halftime. And I'm thinking, okay, this is where Belichick has a big advantage in a Super Bowl game with the lengthy halftime, because this is where he gets you. This is where Brady can get you in the second half leading to the fourth quarter. They can make adjustments because they can process all the information you've given them in the first half. Did any adjustment that Bill Belichick / Matt Patricia, now the Detroit Lions coach, Good riddance, says Patriot Nation. But did any adjustment take in the second half? Did it click? Did they fix anything at halftime? No. It went from bad to worse. It just kept on keeping on. And it came down to Brady does what Brady always does on the biggest stage in American sports. Clutchest player there ever was in any sport, because he had so many opportunities, and he did it again last night. Threw for 101 yards in the fourth quarter alone. But he did what he does. 9:22 left in the game, 33-32, and Philadelphia takes the football and holds on to it for the next 7 minutes and 1 second and drives it 75 yards in 14 plays. And it just seemed endless, and just ate the clock and kept Tom Brady waiting on the sideline. And finally, you look up and they finally scored a touchdown on a play that we're going to talk about this in just a moment, but they did score they were granted the touchdown shakily, but they were granted it. But that's where you have to make one defensive play. It was bad defense on both parts, although Phillies wasn't bad defense. It was just all-time great quarterbacking by number 12 in the Patriot colors. He was just extraordinary. He was at his all-time greatest last night, torching a really good, a hellacious good defense with a hellacious pass rush. And yet, I just kept thinking, one Patriot's going to make one play. Just one play. That's all you need is one play, and this game will swing in New England's favor. Obviously, I picked them, so I'm rooting for my pick. And I'm rooting for Brady. And there was one defensive player made one play the whole night. Just one play was made. One great play that I will remember for the rest of my days was made by not a Patriot, but an Eagle. Brandon Graham. He took a little more of he switched inside, then took an outside shoulder rush right around Shaq Mason, and he reaches out and gets one paw on the football, and Tom Brady is looking downfield, read number one, read number two, boop, gets smacked upside the football, and it's loose. And sometimes those go loose, and your guy falls on it. It's just fate. It's just that oblong ball bounces funny, because if it hits on its nose, it bounces sideways. If it hits over on the far side of its nose, it bounces that way. And this one bounced right up to Derek Barnett, right up into the rookie's hands. And effectively, that was the football game, although we'll get to the end of the football game because there was still one last big play. But here's my point about Belichick's defense. He doesn't deserve any pass because it was an all-time disaster, debacle, embarrassment. All time. Show me worse. Just show me. I mean, there have been Super Bowl blowouts, but in a game in which you had a chance to win, you had a great chance to win. Maybe you should have, well, heck, with 610 yards of offense, you should have won. And you lost by 8. You didn't lose by 1, you lost by 8. What? Okay, now we get to the flashpoint of the night. Help me out on this. What just happened to Malcolm Butler, Bill Belichick? So, I'm now convinced, listening to Malcolm Butler and Bill Belichick, this was not disciplinary. Malcolm Butler reportedly had some kind of bug, flu bug, upper respiratory, I don't know. And he couldn't fly on Monday with the team. Not cool usually with Bill Belichick. Not cool with a lot of coaches. Man, when I covered Jimmy Johnson, that would be not cool at all. He came in on his own on Tuesday. Okay, was that it? If that was the reason, then just tell us. I think they would have told us. I think Belichick would have said that. And if that's the reason, then Malcolm Butler would have been demoted on Tuesday. He would have been punished right away, and it would be clear he'd be inactive for the game. But he wasn't inactive. He practiced all week with the starters, according to all the reports. We had Eric Mangini on today, former, obviously, New England assistant under Bill Belichick. Coached the New England defensive backs for years under Bill Belichick. And Eric was just stunned over this because he said it is so difficult, especially in this complicated scheme that they run, that the defenses are so intricate that the communication among the defensive backs is just tantamount to keeping the other team out of the end zone. It's all about communication and cohesion and rapport and vibe. You have to all be in the same vibe. And obviously Malcolm Butler, who made the greatest defensive play ever in a Super Bowl, to me, just the great. I don't know a bigger play than that one. It simply saved or won the Super Bowl for New England, obviously against Seattle, when he made an incredible break on the ball and just snatched it. Pretty good pass by Russell Wilson, right on the button. Ricardo Lockett, big, strong receiver, much bigger than Malcolm Butler, and the Butler did it. And he did in Seattle. And that controversy, that was the beginning of the end of the Seahawks as we knew them. They still haven't quite recovered from that moment. Should have been beast mode, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that now. But the point is, Malcolm Butler made that play out of nowhere, wasn't even supposed to be on the field, undrafted out of West Alabama. But then he emerged the next year as a Pro Bowl player. Malcolm Butler made the Pro Bowl the next year. He's had a couple of national advertisements. He's a pretty good player. Doesn't have great hands, but does have ball hawk instincts. He's a playmaker, not maybe an interceptor. He's got 9 career interceptions, not terrible. But since 2015, he has 55 passes defensed, which is, I think it's the 9th most among cornerbacks in or among defensive backs in pro football. Not that it's pretty good considering this year's Patriots. I don't know if people lost sight of this, but this team did not take the ball away at all. It was 25th in takeaways. Force a fumble, intercept a pass. 25th, it had 18 total takeaways the whole year. So through 16 regular season games, it took the ball away from the opponent 18 times. Not very good. So you're not going to win on that. You're not going to create much momentum with your defense. You're going to bend and bend and bend and hope you don't break. And they got all the way up, slowly but surely. They climbed up to number 5 in points allowed. That'll work, but in second-level defensive stats, DVOA, it's like defensive efficiency overall, they ranked 31st in the NFL. 31st. So it wasn't a very good defense to start with. I should have seen the light on this. But Belichick is regarded as the mastermind, right? He's the all-time defensive genius. Shannon Sharpe came away from the 30 for 30 on ESPN, the two Bills, Bill Parcells, Belichick. Came in the next day to Undisputed, again, 9:30 to noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Shannon Sharpe's in the Hall of Fame. He was blown away by the documentary, The Two Bills. Blown away. And his awe had increased for Bill Belichick because it went back into all the game plans that he had masterminded as the coordinator of the Giants for Bill Parcells, the head coach. They did this, they did that. I can go on and on. Little strategies, personnel moves. And they were impressive. I give you that. I think that was more impressive than some of the things he's done with the Patriots, because the harder I looked at it this morning before Undisputed kicked off, I started thinking, well, wait a second. Just how great has Bill Belichick been in Super Bowls? Well, he masterminded the plan to stop the greatest show on turf in that first Super Bowl back at the end of the 2001 season, obviously the St. Louis Rams. And yet, I look in the Rams that day. We had Mike Martz on the show, the coach of the Rams at that point, and we had him on Friday. And I look hard. Wait, the Rams had 427 total yards, but they couldn't get it in the end zone. So it wound up 20-17 thanks to Adam Vinatieri and obviously the late drive for the field goal by this kid out of nowhere, out of the 6th round, out of Michigan, Tom Brady. John Madden's up in the booth saying, shut it down, don't put the kid in harm's way. And he goes, completion, 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 completion. And all of a sudden they got a 49-yard field goal, and the rest is Super Bowl history. But 427 yards there. Then I start looking at all the Super Bowl games, and I realize that the average is that Bill Belichick has given up 25 points a game in Super Bowls and nearly 400 yards total in all of those 8 Super Bowls. That's not great. It's not like he put together the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens or the 2002 Tampa Bay Bucks, driven by my good friend Derek Brooks. It's not like that. No, it's a lot of bend, but don't quite break. Some break. And you know what a lot of it was? Tom Brady saving his behind in the fourth quarter. That's what a lot of it was. That's just what about all of it was, if you want to know the truth. So, Malcolm Butler, what just happened? So if it wasn't disciplinary, maybe there's another story, and I said this on the air this morning. If there's another story, I don't know, then I'll just stand corrected. But it sounds like, according to Bill Belichick and according to Malcolm Butler, it was just a football decision. It was a personnel decision. I am convinced of two things. This is my 2 cents from a distance. I am convinced that Bill Belichick decided spur of the moment, because Malcolm Butler didn't know any of this until right before kickoff. So he's practicing as if he's going to be a starter. He's preparing mentally as a starter. And he doesn't know till he gets to the stadium just before kickoff, you're out, pal. You're not going to play anything. He got in one snap, did Malcolm Butler, and it was on punt. I think it was a punt coverage. Yeah, it must have been punt coverage team. He played one snap in the Super Bowl on a special team. Wow. And obviously we saw the picture of a couple other Patriot DBs, backups. They're over there arm in arm around, with the one had his arm around Malcolm Butler, who's just crying his eyes out right before kickoff. What a terrible way for a football team to go into a game. You don't think that's a distraction? You don't think that's a deflation? You don't think that's a shakeup? That's a like what just happened? It could take a little air out of you, man. It could have people looking sideways. It could get you off your focus as a defense, because Malcolm Butler's a good kid. He's fun to be around. I think they like him. He can be a gambler, a little bit of a cluer. Again, he doesn't intercept a whole lot of balls, but he's just a playmaker, and he gets his hands on balls, and he just fights his little tail off. He just fights and scratches and claws with anybody. He'll chase Antonio Brown sideline to sideline. He likes to compete. And this is a one-play game where you needed somebody in defense to make one play. And if I had to go into the game saying you only need one play on defense, I would have bet on Malcolm Butler. I just would have. Done it before. He's done it a lot of regular season games. I'm not saying just that Seattle Super Bowl. And yet, you just bench him. You basically just effectively cut his throat, man, effectively, publicly, in front of his teammates. You just whacked him. You just doghoused him. And it's just awful. And I know Belichick can be cold-blooded, and it has worked before in other cases, often because Tom Brady finally made it work in the fourth quarter. But in this case, man, it just shakes me up. I feel for Malcolm Butler, because it smacks of Bill Belichick saying, look at me. I'm going to repolish my genius here. I'm going to show you. I stole this cornerback from the Philadelphia Eagles a year ago, just before the season started. His name is Eric Rowe, and once upon a time, he was a second-round draft pick of the Eagles out of Utah. And watch me. Look at me, world. I'm going to polish my genius today. I'm going to suddenly, shockingly insert him in the lineup ahead of Malcolm Butler. It screws up everything, because now Batamosi has to come in as a nickelback. It's just everything's out of whack. No, but they didn't practice this. And Belichick's going to show you, because deep down he thinks, Brady will save me. He'll make it work. Although I think Bill has started, I'm sure you watched the documentary, he starts to believe his own you-know-what, and starts to feel himself a little bit full of himself. You know what? I am a genius. So I can get away with anything. And something tells me I got to make a shocking change. This is a look at me change. This is put me up on a higher pedestal change. And you know what? It was the all-time backfire. It looked nothing but foolish. I can't justify it. Again, if you're going to punish Malcolm, if that's what it had been, okay. Remember when Wes Welker made his foot comment about Buddy Ryan? Rex Ryan, late great Buddy, the father, but made the foot comment about Rex Ryan, the foot fetish thing, and he got punished a series for that. Well, if this was deep or whatever, okay, so what if you punish Malcolm for a quarter? Well, what if you punish him for the whole first half? But at some point, for the sake of his teammates, you put him in the game and see if he can make amends and make a play. You just do. So I'm going to buy that it wasn't disciplinary. But, again, is he in the doghouse? He was in the doghouse. Malcolm Butler was after that opening night, that Thursday night debacle against Kansas City up in Foxborough. Didn't start against New Orleans. Did play against New Orleans. But this is so bad that it goes from bad to worse. And that seemed to be the fulcrum around which the defense teetered all night. The lightning rod move was benching Malcolm Butler. I just didn't see that one coming. So don't give him a pass on this, because Bill Belichick deserves no pass. And again, to his credit, he took blame after the game, but that's just his way of blowing off the media. Oh, just blame me. Put all of it on me. There's a little sarcasm in there. He doesn't really think that. But remember, in the end, I'm going to remind everybody, he did lose the power struggle. Bill Belichick lost it, and it was huge. He wanted to go forward next year with Jimmy Garoppolo, who had become like a son to him, loved him. He handpicked him in the second round out of Eastern Illinois. And the kid was starting to live up to what Belichick saw in him, and he's just ready to go into the new era with Jimmy Garoppolo because, and I don't blame Belichick, I don't condemn him for this. At some point, what is he, 65 or 6 now? He wants to have a chance, and again, he's earned the right to have the opportunity to prove he can win one without Tom Brady. Okay, fine. But you do have a boss, Bill Belichick. The boss's name is Robert Kraft. And Robert Kraft does view Tom Brady as like a quote-unquote son. Tommy, he calls him. Okay? RK, he wants Tom and Giselle to call him. And yet, he made a business decision. I don't think he made an emotional, I love Tommy decision. What's not to like about Tom Brady? What hints have you seen? What cracks in the Father Time Foundation have you seen this year in Tom Brady, or for that matter, last year? And Robert Kraft, coming up on the trade deadline, said, Bill, you're overruled. I mandate, I order, I decree, you will trade Jimmy Garoppolo. And I still say, Belichick shrugged and said, okay, you're the boss, and screwed him. I still say, it felt like sabotage to me going forward, just to give him away to a young coach you love, another like a son to you, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, John Lynch in San Francisco that he also likes. Just give him away for a second-round pick. Cleveland would have given you 1-2, and God knows what else. You auction off Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows what you could have gotten. He called, according to Kyle Shanahan, Bill called San Francisco and said, hey, would you give me a 2 for Jimmy Garoppolo? Yeah, we will. We don't even need any time to kick this one around, Bill. Done. Okay, so that felt sabotagey to me. That felt like screw you to me. And last night felt a little like screw you to me. It felt like, what the hell? I'll just do this. I'll bench Malcolm Butler. Who cares? And I said this last night on Facebook. I said it again today on Undisputed, again, 9:30 noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. I am convinced that 20%, just deep subconsciously, of Bill Belichick was kind of rooting against Tom Brady last night because they've been pitted. He wanted to send him into the sunset. And if Tom wanted to go play somewhere else for a year or two more, whatever Belichick thinks he's got left, fine. Like Joe Montana ended up at Kansas City. Fine. Like Joe Namath ended up when I was covering the Los Angeles Rams here in Los Angeles many eons ago. He got shipped to the Rams, and that was a disaster. But Tom Brady is not a disaster. He's not broken down playing the best football of his life. And he says he wants to play into his middle 40s, maybe, 4 more years? He's 40 now. We'll play next year at 41. I'm not betting against him. And Robert Kraft said he's not betting against him. So he bet on 12, and he did not bet on head coach, the 2 Bills, the genius. And again, Chris Mortensen, reporter on ESPN, that there are those around the league, many people around the league think Belichick's not long for the New England coaching ranks. You know, like he's going to be out. He's going to walk away, or I don't know how it's going to happen, but that there's a lot of people don't think he'll be the head coach of the New England Patriots next year. I wouldn't be shocked by that. But now you got him coaching. He already sabotaged you on the Garoppolo. Well, who's to say he didn't sort of mail in a game plan last night? Who's to say his heart just wasn't in it last night for whatever? I'm not saying he's trying to throw the game. His heart's not into it. Again, Bill Belichick showed up on Thursday night at the Timberwolves game. He's good friends with Thibodeau. But still, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's not characteristic of Bill Belichick to show up, la-di-da, night out on the town in Minneapolis at the T-Wolves game. T-Wolves, who was it, Sixers that night? Can't remember. Anyway, but he just shows up. He left at halftime. I'll give him that. But still, that got me. And I said on Undisputed, I don't love this. I don't like Tom versus Time episodes being dropped Super Bowl week. I don't like the two Bills, and I don't like him showing up at the game. And it all proved true that it was just like tempting fate, daring karma. And it came back to bite him. But what if his heart wasn't in it last night? What if he just kind of shrugged at halftime and said, what the hell, Matt Patricia, you do it. You try to fix it. Matt Patricia, who's basically, I don't care what you say, these guys are puppets of these, of the head coach and the quarterback. You can have Josh McDaniels, you can have Matt Patricia, all you want, and I'm not going to bet on them once they leave that fold, because you're working for a guy who really knows how to, or used to know how to coach defenses. Bill Belichick learned everything he knew from Bill Parcells, and again, Josh McDaniels is calling plays for the greatest quarterback ever, who checked into a whole lot of plays of his own last night. So, was Malcolm Butler kind of a sabotagey move? I don't know. It felt like it. They got roasted, toasted, torched, embarrassed all time. His quarterback piles up the most yards ever for a losing team. No team had ever lost with 600-plus yards in the history of pro football. It never happened in regular season or playoffs, and they lost. They gave up 41 points to Nick Foles. And I respect Nick Foles, but 41-33? Are you kidding me? Now, on Brady's behalf, and by the way, I said this today on the show, Tom Brady has to be angry about this. You can see in the documentary how angry he gets after games. He had to be furious. I saw a note in one of the ESPN pieces that he was walking down the hall to his media session, Brady was, and Patricia was walking the other way and kind of extended a hand, tried to comfort him, and Brady wouldn't even look at him, just walked past him because he's furious. He's furious at Belichick and Patricia for the lack of defense that they played. He had no help, and in the end, no hope, man. It's just hard when you're torching the other defense while yours gets even more torched. 41 points. So now to the two calls. Not going to dwell on this, but I'm debating a Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharpe. And the more I thought about this, the more right I was. I believe I am in my heart. But the two calls that were not overturned by replay, Nick Foles threw a beautiful ball to Corey Clement. It was just beautiful, right on the back line. Just such a sweet throw. Just about everything he threw was sweet last night. Touch, velocity. He looked like Tom Brady to me. Poise, precision, execution. I don't know what's not to like there. And yet, Corey Clement just didn't control the football. I don't care what you say. You can look at it 1,000 times. He did not have full control of that football when his foot hit the end line. And he stepped out of bounds. He stepped on the line. He just didn't have control. I don't care what you say. It's coming a little loose. And he got it. He secured it after he stepped out of bounds. But that just has to be overturned. So all you Patriot haters out there who say they get all the breaks and all the calls, and they did get the tuck rule call. I'd certainly give you that. I've covered that game, and I thought it was a snow job because it was in the snow against the Oakland Raiders. But last night, boy, that just felt like the Patriots got hosed on that one. Felt like the league said, we're sick and tired of the Patriots. Everybody's sick and tired. I congratulate everybody. The king is dead. at least for a little while, at least for an offseason. No more Tom Brady. And yet, that led to the second call, which was the call in the game, which was the Zach Ertz call. And again, I'm with the spirit of it because clearly Zach Ertz caught the football. Let's just get to the bottom line. He caught the football. But Des Bryant, after the 2014 season, up in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, he caught the football. I don't care what you say. He caught the football. He just did. He caught it and ran with it a step and a half. Jesse James, New England, at Pittsburgh, late this season, December, whatever it was, 16th. He caught the football. You know it and I know it. We all know it. He caught it. Then in all three cases, the receivers turned to slam the football across the goal line, just the way every running back tries to slam the ball across the goal line to break the plane. So in those, the running back can just break the plane, the sort of invisible plane. You just do that, and you've got a touchdown, young man. And in this case, they're trying to slam it on the ground into, quote unquote, pay dirt. Des tried to do it with his left hand. Jesse James tried to slam it down with his right hand. And Zach Ertz, and all I heard today was he turned into a runner. No, not really, because Devin McCourty stumbled and then sprawled and dived and cut his legs out from under him. And by the letter of the law as it stands right now, by the Des Bryant catch, quote unquote, that wasn't, and the Jesse James catch that wasn't, the letter of that law says it's not a catch. So we heard Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels, two men for whom I have the greatest respect. They know their football. They've watched a lot of football and commentated on a whole lot of football, and they're sitting up in the booth and they're just lost because both of them thought in both cases, Corey Clement, Zach Ertz, overrule, overturn. Didn't happen. So they're just lost. And we're all lost. But it felt like the NFL decided before the Super Bowl, you know what, we're looking really bad off the regular season. We said publicly we're going to revisit this after the Super Bowl in the offseason. But maybe we should just quietly change it right now. Let's just go ahead, Al Riveron, whoever else is up in the booth, the replay officials. Maybe they just all decided, let's just go with eye test. Catch or no catch. Did he actually catch? Yep, he caught it. And I give you that. Zach Ertz caught it. But by the letter of the law as we saw it governed the whole year, it just wasn't a catch. So look what that did to the New England Patriots. They got hosed twice because both times Philly would have had to kick a field goal. And let's just give them the field goal that they would make the field goal. Because that kid was making field goals all year long, that little rookie. So let's do that. But that's 4 points and 4 points that the Patriots lost. And then Belichick has, often not raved about, but been pretty smug about how good his special teams are, how good his kicking game is. And I said this, but Pro Football Focus did a breakdown, as they always do, of the 106 Super Bowl players in this year's Super Bowl. And they rank them just 1 through 106. And Gostkowski, the place kicker for New England, was 99. Ryan Allen, the punter, was like 104. And the snapper, the long snapper, Joe Cardona of the New England Patriots, was dead last at 106. And the scouts at Pro Football Focus termed him a liability. That's what happened last night. So they botch a field goal and they botch an extra point because it wasn't quite right. Snap, hold, kick, all out of sync, out of rhythm, out of sequence, miss. So there's 4 more points. So there's 12 points that the Patriots were not allowed in 8 of them, and they botched 4 more. So there's minus 12 points right there. And it was an 8-point game. Fine. So, again, Tom Brady has the ball back. 2:40 to go. And I'll be the first to admit that in that instance, I said this on Facebook ahead of the game, how many times can you ask a human to do the inhuman things, the superhuman things that Tom Brady has continued to do Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl? It's become like it's routine, And the beauty of what happened for Tom Brady, I think he enhanced his legacy last night because the whole world thought when he got the ball back that he would just march right down the field and score. He would score a touchdown to win the game in the last 2 minutes of the game. And I wasn't sure because at some point the odds are just against you. At some point it's just going to be numbers. They're just going to bite you. You know, it's not just karma, it's just odds because it's just hard. You don't see other quarterbacks routinely do this. And he had done it in all 5 Super Bowl victories. He had conducted a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter overtime. And what he did against Atlanta was just extraordinary. It's just we've never seen anything like it. And he conducted a 6-game winning drive, as I said earlier, against Eli in the first Super Bowl, the first Giants Super Bowl, and he got Tyree. That one got taken away. So last night, one play, defensive player play, kind of a game. And what happened? Brandon Graham made it. And we had Keenan Allen, an undisputed on Friday, and he volunteered to me. We're talking about Fletcher Cox and blah, blah, Chris Long, blah, blah, blah. He said, nope, Brandon Graham's the man. He's the game changer. Brandon Graham. And right on schedule, Brandon Graham made one play in that game, and he got to Tom Brady. And is it Tom's fault? Okay, I'll give you that. Should he have protected the ball better? Well, you're under duress, man. You got to go score another touchdown under the biggest pressure in American sports. And he's reading option 1, 2, boom. And Brandon Graham made a great play. It was, to me, a much greater play than it was a blunder. That's just going to happen occasionally. Bad bounce to Philly. You didn't get the bounce back to one of your offensive linemen. Effectively, game over. And now, I couldn't believe this. I'm just watching. I don't read my Twitter responses, but I'm watching what's trending. And it was typical and predictable. Tom Brady was going to trend off the pass that he quote-unquote dropped. Tom Brady is not going to try hard to catch that ball. If it hits him in the hands, he's going to catch it. If it's straight over his head where he has to extend for it, he's not going to leave his feet and twist in the air and risk coming down on his shoulder and busting his shoulder and not being able to play the rest of the Super Bowl. He's too smart for that. He's too sly for that. He's too seasoned for that. He has too much of his own genius operating where he's calculating situation, risk, reward. He's just not going to extend. It's not worth it. It's not what he does for a living, obviously. If the ball's going to hit him right in the hands, just right here, he'll catch it. Trust me. He's good. He's an underrated athlete. Best pocket feet I've ever seen. But it was funny to me because everybody got so fixated on, Tom Brady missed it. Did you see that? Again, he's being nationally criticized for a skill that is not supposed to be part of his skill set. And Nick Foles caught his touchdown pass because Trey Burton hit him right in the hands. And I'm going to say it one more time. Nick Foles is a really good athlete. He got recruited out of Austin Westlake High School to play college basketball at the University of Texas and the Baylor University. Two pretty good basketball schools wanted him to play basketball at 6 feet 6 inches tall. So if you hit him right in the hands, wide open for a touchdown, he is going to catch that. Tom Brady will catch it too, but you have to hit him in the hands, and that was straight over his head. It's not that easy of a play, and he is not going to extend for it because that's not what he does. But he's also calculating it's only third down. Maybe fourth down, do or die at the end of the game. He would extend and risk falling on his shoulder to catch that football. But there was fourth down. It was 4th and 5 from the Eagles' 35-yard line. And what happened on the next play? We didn't even get a replay of the next play because the world and NBC was fixated on Tom Brady missed the ball. He dropped the ball. Look at Tom Brady. How great are you now, Tom Brady? And what happened on the next play? We showed it today. Go if you got the game on tape, I dare you to go look at this. He throws it right up the boundary to Rob Gronkowski, and Jalen Mills is a little late getting to him. And Jalen Mills, the Eagles cornerback, fouls Rob Gronkowski. He pass interfered. Just look at it. Slow it down and look at it. He reaches out and grabs Gronkowski's left hand before he can raise up to catch the football. Holds down his left hand. Sometimes it's the old arm bar, which is a little more subtle. This is just a straight grab. He's running like face to face to him. Gronk's turned around to catch the football. And as he starts to go up to snatch it, Jalen Mills grabs his hand. I think it's is it left hand to left hand? Maybe it's right hand. But anyway, he just reaches with whichever hand is first for Jalen Mills and just holds on to Gronkowski's hand and holds it down. Well, now you're forcing him to try to go up with just one hand and catch the ball, and then bodies collide, and it's the old Shaquille O'Neal syndrome of you could foul Shaq all you want. He's so big, he's so powerful. Just foul him, and we won't call it because nobody can stop him anyway, and that's how they sort of referee Gronk. So that was another play, another call that New England didn't get, which leads me to the last Gronk play. I know everybody was rooting outside of Patriot Nation against Tom Brady, but the best play of the game for Tom Brady, the best play by far, was the last play of the game. Tom Brady eludes Brandon Graham. Not easy to do. If you got it on tape, check it out. He puts a move on Brandon Graham and escapes Brandon Graham's sack, and has just enough time to step into and throw a Hail Mary that was beautifully executed and right on point. And the Eagles wrongly, stupidly, did not jam Rob Gronkowski and allowed him to get a free run all the way to the end zone and get across the end line into the end zone. And the pass is right on point. And Rob Gronkowski has to catch that. I'm sorry. If you're that dude, if you're Gronk, if you're Party Boat Gronk, if you're that guy, you have to go up and snatch that. You're 6 feet 6 inches tall against all shorter DBs. There aren't receivers, tall receivers on the field. And nobody fouls you on that play. There's nobody grabbing the bottom of your, back of your jersey or putting a hand on your shoulder pads to keep you down. The Eagles just went for the football. 3 of them leap. And they out-jump Rob Gronkowski. He has to go up and high point that and snatch it. I know he's not a leaper, but he's 6'6", and he's a moose. So you just sort of, you pull the Jason Witten where you just shield everybody off with your big old frame, and then you launch up and high point and snatch the ball because it was perfectly executed by a Tom Brady who had already thrown for 505 yards, an all-time playoff, not just Super Bowl, all-time playoff record at that point. And Gronk, boy, he let me down. That would have made it a 2-point game, and Tom Brady would have to go with another 2-point play. But we saw what happened against Atlanta last year, didn't we? 2-point plays. I'm not sure I would have bet against him. So what if he executes? What if he hits little Danny Amendola or Chris Hogan with the 2-point pop pass, or Gronk with a fade, and we go to overtime? Would you bet against Tom Brady there? No, but they lost by 8. Which leads me to next year. I'm not going to bet against New England next year with Tom Brady. So do I give New England a better shot than Philly getting back to this game? You better believe it, just because of that guy, just because of number 12, period, end of story. But he has his own burden. He's got Belichick. They're at quiet war. Kraft says they're going to meet, mend fences, iron it out, make peace. I don't know. So you're going to lose both coordinators. I don't think that's a huge deal. Losing Belichick would be a huge deal. Just on the continuity, just on the business working relationship that he and Brady have. It'd be interesting to see. I still wouldn't bet against Tom Brady, but I think New England is in flux. And I think that defense, and I would be the first in line here, having missed the boat, I think it was overrated all year. It started off the first 4 games on historically bad pace, and it's got to be retooled. It's just got to be retooled. They just need players. Belichick, for too long, has been able to get away with just mixing and matching all kinds of spare parts just to polish his genius because he's got number 12 and he knows Tom Brady will always save the day. He saved the day against Drew Brees in the Superdome in week 2 after that debacle against Kansas City. Go look at what he did. He threw for, what, is it 300 yards in the first half of that game? That's a sort of it's not do or die, but it's a fall to 0-2 type game against a team in New Orleans that was coming. It hadn't sort of caught fire yet and found itself after, it was before Adrian Peterson had been traded, but still, that's the kind of thing. He's the ultimate eraser. He's the ultimate deodorant. Tom Brady can just make it all work. For anything Bill Belichick tries on defense, it will work because you got Tom Brady. So they're in a state of flux. And Tom Brady, as we saw last night, can only do so much. He can do the all-time greatest, but if you have no defense, that's not enough. So I think all of a sudden some bets are off in New England, depending on how the coaching staff, depending on what Bill Belichick decides to do. If he's back with Brady and he's recommitted to Brady, then I'm not going to bet against them getting back to the Super Bowl. Now, to the division occupied by my Dallas Cowboys. And I'm a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm here to tell you, Philadelphia fans, the NFC East will be much tougher next year. My Cowboys will be much better next year. I got to knock on wood. Again, it's a lot to do with health. But if Ezekiel Elliott is eligible for all 16 games, they're just going to be much better. I'm knocking on wood. If Sean Lee can stay healthy for 12 out of 16 games, knock on wood, they're just going to be better. And the young defensive backs, all thrown into the fire right away, they're just all, knock on wood, they're just all going to be better. Dallas will just be better. Dak Prescott will be better next year. I don't know exactly how they're going to shore up the receivers. I hope Des Bryant is gone, but they'll fix it. They'll figure it out. And they are just going to be better because they're still a loaded football team. The offensive line just has to be better than it was last year. Ty Smith has to stay a little healthier, I'm knocking on wood, than he did last year with his back issues. He's still in his prime. They're still going to be a force and a factor. Alex Smith in Washington, I promise you, they'll just be better than... Alex Smith is better than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is now 1-6 against the Dallas Cowboys, Washington's arch rival. 1-6, and he lost all 4 home games to Dak Prescott. Not all, not to Dak, but he lost all 4 home games that he played. Dak Prescott is now 4-0 against the Washington Redskins, but Kirk Cousins lost all 4 times he played Dallas at the Redskins stadium. Okay? So Alex Smith is better. That will be a bigger threat to my Cowboys and a bigger threat, trust me, to the Eagles. And remember, it went to the wire in that opening game at Washington. Kirk Cousins had the ball back, and he got a bad call on his arm was going forward, and the ball got hit and was ruled a fumble, and Fletcher Cox scooped it up and ran it back. And that was a close game. I thought Kirk Cousins in that moment was going to go down and score against the Eagles because I didn't think the Eagles were that great. And the Giants are just going to be better. I don't know. Odell, God bless him. I'm knocking on wood for his sake. I hope he comes back fully healthy. That defense is still much better than it played. They got rid of much ado about nothing, Ben McAdoo, and I know Pat Shurmur mostly through his son who played quarterback for my Vanderbilt Commodores this year. They were kind of up and down, but he's from good stock. And they'll like him better. They're just going to be better. So all these teams in the East are going to threaten Philly in ways none of them threatened Philly this year. Philly had a cakewalk in the East that I did not see coming. And it was circumstantial because of suspensions and injuries to key players on all 3 of the rivals. Not going to happen. Philly now has a full-blown quarterback controversy, whether they like it or not. And they're going to shelve it for now and enjoy it and enjoy the parade. And I congratulate you, Philly. But it is going to be very hard not to play Nick Foles next year. And Carson Wentz, I'm just not sold. I've fought Shannon Sharp. I'm going to dig in. I'm not going to back off this. I just don't love him because he's still a little skittish. He's a little wild with the football. He gets a little wild-eyed. He gets a little deer in headlights. He's athletic. He's got a big arm. He makes plays. And a lot of this was Doug Peterson's offense. I saw that last night. What does it say for Carson Wentz's MVP qualifications that Nick Foles played even better in that offense than Carson Wentz played? Nick Foles was extraordinary in all 3 playoff games in all 4 of his career. He's been extraordinary. He's been really good. And so for Nick Foles' career now, he's up to 69 touchdown passes to 30 interceptions. And the 30th was last night. And it was just bad luck. Just Alshon got a hand on it and then tipped it up in the air, and Duran Harmon picked it off. It's bad luck. So he should still have 29 interceptions except for that. But the point is, they're going to trade Nick Foles? You could get something. You might even be able to get a 1 for him now. He had one bad run in St. Louis with the Rams. That was Jeff Fisher. He got Jeff Fishered. Vince Young got Jeff Fishered. Jared Goff got Jeff Fishered. I don't know. I hope they do trade him and go get somebody else as a backup, because I'm not sure Carson Wentz, I'm going to knock on wood for his sake, I'm not sure he can stay healthy the way he plays. And he had a horrendous knee injury. He had 2 ligaments go in his knee. God bless him, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sold, and I think they might fall back to earth with quarterback controversy. Is it Foles? Is he going to start the year while Carson Wentz is still trying to rehab a little bit more? And it's going to split that team. And I think the NFC East next year is right back there for the taking. The Eagles will be the favorite going in. It's a loaded football team. They had guys on injured reserve who were Hall of Fame candidates. Obviously, Darren Sproles. And Jason Peters, their left tackle, was really good. But that Big V, was he not good in the playoffs? All I know is I didn't hear his name. Ty Smith goes out for my Cowboys, and Chaz Green goes in at Atlanta. Was that not the turning point and downfall of the Dallas Cowboys? And Chaz Green and 8 sacks from that side. They threw Byron Bell in there at the end, but they allowed 8 sacks. That's just mind-boggling to me. That was the low point of my year and of maybe my Cowboy watching life was that game. It was just an all-time debacle disaster. But the point is, I'm sure about the Patriots getting back to this game than I am the Eagles. But I congratulate the Eagles. I hate the Eagles, and I hate to use the word hate, but I don't like them because I grew up not liking them. I'm a Cowboy fan since 1961. I just don't like them. I don't like their swagger, their body language. I don't like their fans, but I do respect them, and I respect their tradition, and I give it up tonight. I gave it up on the show today. I congratulate you, Philadelphia. It's been a long time coming. You finally joined the Super Bowl club. I will remind you, though, sometimes it's more fun to root for an underdog than it is to root for a champion. Sometimes it's more fun to sort of, so to speak, cry in your beer when the Eagles one step short of the Super Bowl or, get upset in the playoffs. So enjoy it for now, because now the target is on your back next year. Let's see how you like that, because you've always targeted other people, and now you're the guys in our division. And the Dallas Cowboys are coming for you, Philadelphia, next year. I'll predict right here, right now, the Cowboys will at least split with you. The Cowboys will beat the Philadelphia Eagles just the way they beat Carson Wentz a year ago at at Jerry World in overtime. Dak Prescott to Jason Witten, remember that? Talk about clutch. It's coming again next year. We're coming back tomorrow. Undisputed. I'll talk about some of these issues tomorrow. We'll get into whether Belichick will stay or go, New England. Maybe there'll be more reporting on the Malcolm Butler, just the most bizarre story I've encountered in a long while. And we will get back into, is LeBron's team just dead in the water? Has LeBron quit on his team, or has his team quit on him? We'll deal with that on Undisputed tomorrow. I appreciate you watching tonight, Facebook. It was a great Super Bowl to watch. It was all-time. It might have been the most, I'm drained from it. Obviously, I was rooting for Brady. But as I step back and clear my head 24 hours later, man, it was a spectacle. It was something. It was a great finish to what was a pretty rocky year for the National Football League. And I love me some NFL. And I love me some Fox. And I thank you for our great ratings on Fox Sports 1 this year during football season. We are gratified. We will see you tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern to noon Eastern time on Fox Sports 1. Over and out, Facebook Live.